The Portland Pickles are coming off of their best season in team history after winning the most games in Major League Baseball, but our journey is still far from complete because we got embarrassed in the playoffs. I definitely expected to be a good team last season, but I don't think anyone saw triple-digit wins in our future. So now, in just our 6th season of existence, we are chasing the World Series, but that's going to be easier said than done because even though our popularity is exploding, our owner is unwilling to spend any money. We would be completely hopeless if our first drafts didn't feature a ton of talent. But while some players like Randy Trout and Mason Valenzuela have become a part of this team's identity, I'm also very excited to see a new wave of pitching prospects find their way onto the team this year. I feel so spoiled because last season we didn't just make the playoffs, but we also drafted a generational talent in Emery McCarty who fell to 9 overall, and at 18 years old, before he's even played a game, he's already one of our best players. It's opening day, and I know I usually show some spring training, but I felt like it really wasn't necessary since we already know our team, and I'm definitely a bit concerned because our all-star ace Matt Waldron has already given up a run in the first, but because of how good our offense was last year, I am definitely not sweating yet. We definitely can't afford another run though, and there is a 2-run shot, so Waldron's season is off to a very rough start so far, and we still have not gotten a hit, and I don't know if Waldron slacked during the offseason, but he really needs to figure it out. Even his signature knuckleball has not worked so far, but at least he's able to turn a double play here, so at least it's gonna stay 3-0, but we are getting no hit right now, and right now my biggest fear is falling into a slump early on in the year because last season was so successful. Our owner just agreed to invest in a brand new stadium starting next year, but our success this year is definitely going to depend how good that stadium is, so we really need to produce some runs, and that starts with the heart of our order as Valenzuela grounds into a double play. Regardless, I'm very excited for Pickle Park to get an upgrade, so comment below what you would want to see in a new stadium because I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Our starting rotation was very good last season, and that's one of the reasons we had so much success, and even though it wouldn't be ideal if someone like Matt Waldron fell off a cliff, we have plenty of prospects who could replace them, and after an amazing year from our rotation, we have to expect at least some drop-off. Here is Adrian Morhone, who is one of our only free agent signings, and this dart from Paul Arrington is going to end his scoreless inning. We are still waiting on our first run of the season, which David Fry delivers on cue with an opposite shot into right field, and he's a guy who really fell off last season after being our best player in season number 4, but it would be amazing for our team if he could bounce back. It would be great if we could add some more runs, but our power has simply not woken up yet, so at least Morhone is pitching well, giving us another scoreless inning, as it's the bottom of the 7th where we're still getting good pitches, but we're just popping them up. If anybody can wake us up, it's last year's breakout star Randy Trout, but even he gets underneath this, so in the 9th inning, we only have 2 hits as Gavin Sheets gets under this, giving it a ride into left center field, and he has a lot of power as it keeps going to the wall for a home run. I did not think that one had a chance, and I'm very glad we brought back Sheets on a low-budget deal, so we have a chance to make this a more interesting 9th inning as Arrington gets aboard, which means that the winning run is up to bat with 0 outs. This team lived for clutch situations last year, and this closer has blown it, giving up his 4th hit in a row to Chang, and it's a 3-run home run to walk it off on opening day. What a great way to start the season in a very unlikely victory, as we needed 4 runs to walk that one off. That win sparked a huge series as we won 3 of 4, so we are looking to match last year's hot start, but against Boston, we need a walk-off win as we're down 2, but Mason Valenzuela took advantage of a splitter right down the heart of the plate, and in 2 series, the Pickles have 2 walk-offs. Another late Pickles comeback gave us our 2nd series win, and we took that momentum forward with 2 very close wins against Detroit before reaching the first week of scouting where I see a potentially generational second baseman, but of course that's not going to be possible picking at 28. The draft is going to be a little less exciting now that we're good in picking near the end, but I still think there's a very good chance to add to our squad. We would go on to sweep Detroit, and our next challenge are the 2nd place Rangers. Texas was our worst nightmare from seasons 1 through 4, but obviously everything changed last year, and Matt Waldron's trying to bounce back as Nathaniel Lowe pops it up, going back into right field, except maybe that's not a pop-up, traveling to the fence for a home run. He only hit that 96 miles an hour off the bat, so not only did the chance of a Matt Waldron shutout go out the window, but we're also trailing by 2. It really feels like Portland is allergic to playing normal baseball games, but at least the bright side of that is we're always going to keep our fans entertained as Cabrera hits this one well into left center, but it's not going to drop. Now we're relying on Castro, who could tie this game with 1 swing, and he is really in his wheelhouse against a lefty and Caleb Ferguson, and there you go. That is an easy double that is going to cut it to a 1-run game. That was a textbook line drive swing, so we've at least given ourselves a chance in the 9th inning against Tanner Scott, and I really thought Trout had that one. Here's Brian De La Cruz with 1 out, and as you can see, righty, he hits lefties pretty well, so we just need to get the right pitch as there's a slider, which brings him to 2 strikes where he got jammed by the fastball. That brings us down to our final out, and unfortunately, there's no pinch hit options for Dominic Fletcher, who actually gets a hold of this one, but just doesn't have the power. That's a discouraging loss to our rival, but we did rebound with a win, so Game 3 will decide a very important early series. It's very annoying how slow Trevor Rogers' slider is, but we get a hit here, and at least for me, this lighting makes it impossible to see, so I'm glad Castro checks, but then he strikes out. We're relying on Mason Valenzuela with 2 outs. I literally can't see. I shouldn't have swung at that, but it's gonna get down anyways, and that will somehow score a miracle run. That means it's time for a James Getz save, and even though he definitely doesn't throw gas, he had a breakout season last year with 53 saves and a whip under 1. This is the guy I want in this situation every time, and down to his last strike, he's trying to win us the series, but maybe that's not gonna happen. Jonah Heim sends this into right field. That is not coming back. I swear I've jinxed anything good that's ever happened to this team, so because of that blunder, we are going to extra innings, where as you know, we have spent a lot of time Brian De La Cruz. This is not gonna drop. That is very unfortunate, but now even against a lefty, Dominic Fletcher is going to deliver in the clutch as he always does, and he may be able to stretch this into a triple unless he's thrown out, which is definitely gonna happen. That was a bad mistake. That can make the difference between a 1 or 2 run lead, as he's the reason we're down to our last out where Wally Booker grounds out. It is time for James to redeem himself, and this is a grounder that will advance the runner to third but get 1 out, and with only 1 out, we need a strikeout because a sacrifice fly would be devastating, as there's a 2-2 count for Getz, who gets him with the curveball. I'm definitely scared facing Corey Seager, but he swings through a high fastball, so after some drama, the Pickles survive. By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please drop a like and subscribe, because looking at the stats, 80% of you guys are not. We are 10-3 after a series win, and so far, Rodolfo Castro is putting up crazy numbers in very limited opportunities, but aside from him, Joaquin Cabrera is enjoying a nice second year, while so far, bringing back Gavin Sheets was the right decision, but scrolling down even further, Randy Trout, David Fry, and Paul Arrington are all struggling. Also, looking at our farm, we have been grooming the minors, and I want to make a Wander Franco joke, but I know they're getting a little stale. But looking at the list, it is absolutely true, as we have 6 top 10 prospects, and scrolling down the list even further, we have 21 top 100. This includes our generational first baseman, Emery McCarty, but also our 6th round starting pitcher, Robbie Staub, is number 4, while our second selection, closer John Cozart, is at number 5. Even though Staub has overtaken them, don't forget about Pablo Cedeno and then Ernest Crespo, who could both play this year, especially if guys like Sixto Sanchez and Cade Horton keep struggling. Looking at this draft class though, Dexter Palma could be a very interesting option in the 2nd round, but I think I need to scout some options with higher potential, someone like Max Naylor. We are also on a roll because we've won 5 games in a row and make that 6 and 7, so in the first 19 games, we are 16-3. Just like last season, we are off to a very hot start as we can extend our win streak to 8 games, but to do that, we need to overcome a 1-run 8th inning deficit to the Guardians, where unfortunately Jose Suarez allows another. However, this Guardians team has blown a lead to us before, so just like that game on opening day, we are looking for a comeback, as there's one aboard for Randy Trout, who's looking to turn his season around and drops this in. So much of our lineup hits lefties well, and unfortunately De La Cruz was just early on that one, so we missed out on a potentially home run pitch as he makes good contact into center field where it's caught. I am leaving in Dominic Fletcher because this is a clutch situation, and unfortunately this time he does not come through. So with runners at the corners, it's up to David Fry, who got one right down the middle, but unfortunately we ran out of magic in this loss. That snapped our win streak, but at least we can see scouting where Max Naylor looks like a good first round option, and nearing the end of April, we're tied for the best record in baseball with Pittsburgh, but if there's anyone who can change that, it's the New York Yankees. This is the team that swept us in the playoffs, so of course they're also beating us in our first series against them this season, but Valenzuela has 2 in scoring position. We cannot afford to miss out on this opportunity, down 2 runs, but Mason pops up, so we really need a 9th inning rally as Cole is still in the game, and at 38 years old, he's looking for a complete game shutout, but Brian De La Cruz just slammed the door on that idea. Now we have 2 outs to get 1 run, but there's a grounder, so we're down to our last chance for revenge, and big props to David Fry for drawing a walk, but Sheets is behind in the count, and I guess that works. Paul Arrington is not the guy you want in this spot, but unfortunately, he's our only option, and lucky for us, Hamilton lost his command. Here is a bases loaded chance for Brian Lozano, who got a great pitch, but unfortunately, it went right to second base. Different year, same story against New York, and I swear we're cursed if we get swept again, but thankfully, we're able to win 2 games. Apparently, the Yankees are the only team we struggle against because we're looking to sweep Baltimore, and I have no idea how Randy didn't hit that to the parking lot, As we are still tied up at 1 apiece in the 7th inning, at least until David Fry sends this into left field. Is it gonna go the distance? It will not, but it's a double. I know we're not used to pulling ahead before the 8th or 9th inning, but I promise you it's possible, as Cheng sends this deep into right center field, and unlike David Fry, it is not gonna come up short. We might actually avoid another soap opera of a game, but we really can't speak too soon because Cade Horton gave up a home run, but we're coming right back with another one. That is our first 6th-round pick of the series, Joaquin Cabrera going yard. So once again, we have a 2-run lead, and Randy Trout continues to struggle this season. I read all of your comments, so I see how much of a fan favorite he is, as Dominic Fletcher actually gives us a ride to center field where it's gonna be caught at the track. So for this team's sake, I hope their MVP can really turn things around as David Fry turns on another double that looked very similar to the one he hit 2 innings ago. Another run could really help reduce our fans' stress levels, and Paul Arrington, right on cue, is gonna answer with a deep bomb to left field. So for the first time I can remember in a while, that was pretty decisive. To start May, we are 24-6, but as you can see, there's still room for improvement in our rotation, specifically with our 5-starter Tyler Phillips, who has not been great. Fortunately, for a while, we've been waiting for Ernest Crespo to develop, and I think it's finally time to make the aggressive move to give him his debut. I know he's 80 overall, but that walks per 9 is concerning, which is why I'm very surprised that he has a complete game shutout going against Miami, but unfortunately, this RBI breaks it up. Regardless, that was a great first appearance, and only time will tell how good he is as we lost a series. I'm not concerned yet because we're 7 games up, but for the good of our season, we need to get back on track against Seattle as we're leading, and here is a double play. We are terrible at fielding, but we really needed that one because their runner at third would have tied it up, so instead we have a 1-run cushion. Unfortunately for us though, that didn't last long, but it could be a lot worse if Dylan Coleman doesn't settle down, and that is the opposite of settling down. He gave up a 3-run nuke, dude. Coleman has been very up and down since joining our team, and he single-handedly has us in a very bad situation as Gavin Sheets doubles into right center. We may be the comeback kings, but this one would be a ton to ask for, and suddenly we've lost 4 out of our last 5. At least on the positive side, we won so much early on that I'm really not worried about losing a few games here and there, especially with our offense playing like this. And while it's gonna take time to see where our pitchers' seasons are going, there are definitely a few bright spots, as of course James Getz is having another elite season. Going back to scouting, I found an 18-year-old project center fielder in Jesse Albus, who should realistically come in with at least a decent potential range. And since we're definitely further along in the series, I'm mostly looking at high school age players with high potential, but even though I don't usually draft pitchers in the first round, I might make an exception for Jose Garcia, because it's really not common to find that good of potential with a guaranteed decent overall. We are up 2-0, looking to hold off Kansas City, and with 2 on, I'm definitely scared of Bobby Witt Jr., but thankfully we get out of the inning alive. We have definitely slowed down after a very fast start to the season, so a decisive series victory would be the perfect way to rebound as Randy Trout skies us into right field. I don't know if that's gonna have the distance, going back to the track, where unfortunately it's caught. It's not like Randy's having a bad year, but it's definitely a step down from 2028, and it would definitely be nice to see him make a highlight play every once in a while. Dylan Coleman is looking to turn around his season after a pretty rough start, and Alex Verdugo is gonna bloop this into left field, so with 2 outs, he needs to get out of the inning, and that is a huge chase. It would be really nice to add some insurance runs, but of course, that's not always gonna happen. But at least there's still a pretty good cushion for James Getz, as this grounder's not gonna get through, but Lane Thomas has more than enough speed. The tying run is officially at the plate, so we really need Getz to wrap this one up, and there's a strikeout, so the Pickles have won another series, and we're 5.5 games up in our division. I found another boomer bust prospect in Andres Machado, who at the very least can develop into a trade piece. And speaking of trades, this might be the season we need to make a few, because we are set to lose a lot of key pieces this offseason. We are running the gauntlet against teams in our division, and down 2 in the 9th, Cabrera got railed to take a free base, so Randy Trout is the last out of this game, but facing a full count, Bautista walked him. That can make Sheets the winning run, but once again, we're facing 2 strikes, and this time we cannot pull back the check swing, and lost the first game of this series to Houston, but thankfully we got our revenge, winning the next 2 games. Now we're facing Seattle to start June, and this is a very important game because they already won the first of the series, so we can't afford a series loss with the Rangers breathing down our neck. Brian Wu just threw one of the most beautiful changeups I've ever seen and is making adding another run very difficult, but have no fear, Brian De La Cruz is here, going deep to center field. I am very glad that gave us more breathing room because, as always, Dylan Coleman is causing problems, and honestly at this point I'm just gonna move him out of the setup role because he definitely causes us a lot of problems. I thought he could get out of this inning, but apparently not, because Gabriel Moreno just went deep again. Then I sim one play and and it's another bomb. So after leading by 2 runs, we need a 2-run rally. This is honestly so absurd to me because our bullpen has been so good the past couple years, and for whatever reason, it feels like we've been in a slump as Texas is 3 games back from us. I'm already thinking about what moves to make at the deadline, because just as a refresher, we won 100 games last season, and on paper, we should be even better this year. We lost another series to Seattle, so suddenly Texas is right on our tail. I think the slow start for Randy Trout definitely has a lot to do with that, but the rest of our team should be able to make up for it. So if there's one reason we're struggling more than usual, I definitely think it's our pitching, because look at these ERAs. Dylan Coleman and Adrian Morhone are not working out. For now, I think my best move is to just move Dylan Coleman out of the setup role, and I think him and Morhone both get one more chance before they're replaced by Diego Bautista, who's coming up very soon. I've already mentioned how important it is for Randy Trout to turn his season around, as he's going to drive in an RBI here. So now here's Brian De La Cruz, who's in the last year of his contract, and he's trying to make it count, hitting a single to the same spot as Trout did. That's going to drive in Lozano. I've been wondering if we're no longer the comeback kings, as we've definitely had a bad run of luck lately, but a win here could get us back on the right track. As the bases are loaded for Gavin Sheets with 2 outs, this is going to be close. It does not drop, but thankfully it scores the go-ahead run. That was a great play in center field from Luis Robert Jr., and now Anthony Volpe cannot get this one to second base, so this is a big scoring chance for Cabrera. He is only 76 overall, but he's one of those players that consistently plays above his overall rating, and at least in that regard, he embodies this Portland Pickles team, but he cannot drive in another run. So we've got James Getz in the game to try to close this out, and it's very fitting he leads the American League in saves. While Getz has been a great closer and will probably stay there, I would love to get another bullpen arm that can throw some serious heat, because that could help us out even more in late games. We would earn a big sweep against Minnesota, but unfortunately with the way we've been playing, we are now behind Texas. But the funny thing about this situation is that we have the second best record in baseball as a wild card team. I was gonna wait until the All-Star break to make a move, but this is definitely a dire and very unique situation, and there is one player from a rebuilding team that really catches my eye who would definitely change our offense, and that is Yanquiel Fernandez on the Colorado Rockies. As far as the ratings go, he is basically Gavin Sheets if he could also play defense, and with the state of our farm system, I am willing to give up quite a bit to get him, starting with an A potential first baseman in Jacob Wilson. Then I'm also going to give them an A potential first baseman in Jensen Spence, before throwing in an outfielder with starting experience in Dominic Canzone. This is a lot to give up, but I feel like a player like Fernandez is worth it, especially because after this year, he has 3 years of arbitration left. We are making our second big trade of the series, but now as you can see in the top right, we have an extra player on our MLB roster, so this leads to my second trade where we're going to sell on Gavin Sheets. Led by Hunter Green and Ellie De La Cruz, the Reds are desperately trying to make the playoffs, but as you can see, their biggest weakness is corner outfield. We're going to help them out by sending them Gavin Sheets, but in return, I want a flame-throwing reliever, and we're going after rising prospect Phil Bird. I really hope the trade for Yanquiel Fernandez can spark our offense, because after the Angels tied it, we're definitely gonna need it, and he's gonna immediately have a chance to make an impact for us, but unfortunately, he keeps it on the ground. Regardless, he has 2 hits in his pickle debut, and after Fry walked, Arrington's trying to keep the inning alive in a tie game, going the other way, but it's not gonna be deep enough. We seem destined for extra innings against a Los Angeles team that is not great this year, but first we need Jose Suarez to get us there, and look who's batting. Many of you were not happy that I traded Nick Madrigal last year, but it was clearly time to move on. But now a year later, it would be very embarrassing if he walked it off against us, and that was not gonna happen. That is the first out of the inning, but now here's a Nick Madrigal style blooper on the next at bat that's gonna get down in left field for at least a single, but he's trying to stretch it. That's gonna be a double. Suarez is in a tough spot against his former team, and even though he just has one more out, here is Mike Trout. At age 37, he is no longer the highest rated Trout in baseball, but that does not make me less scared of him, as he is now faced with a full count and swings through a fastball. We beat the Angels in the ALDS last season, and I guess we broke them last season because they're 24 games back in the division, but here is a double play. We would go on to lose that game, and obviously that really sucks, especially because they are going to sweep us. I do not know what has happened to the Pickles, but we need to figure it out, especially because this is probably the last year we're gonna have Dominic Fletcher and Brian De La Cruz. The guy who's really surprising everybody this season is Paul Arrington, who's now up to an 82 overall, but then 4 out of our top 5 OPS guys are all hitting free agency this season. Mason Valenzuela and Joaquin Cabrera are very similar players, putting up very similar stat lines, and I'm definitely glad we made the move for Yanquiel Fernandez with the current situation in our outfield. Our rotation has been above average this season, but it's nothing compared compared to what it was last year. And in the bullpen, we're really still waiting for these two guys to turn it around. This is our last game before the MLB draft, and with two guys on in the 8th inning, we are not able to take the lead. So it looks like we're definitely going into the All-Star break on a huge cold streak, unless we can magically come up with one of our classic pickle rallies as Yankees goes the other way, giving it a ride, and even though it feels like we're late on everything, he has the power to send that over the fence. That trade acquisition is already paying off for us, and now the rally might not be over, as there are no outs and Arrington draws a walk, which gives Cabrera a huge RBI opportunity, and even though he hits this one well, he is not a power guy. That is the first out, but at least it advanced a runner to third, as Chang unfortunately grounds into a double play. But now Getz is in the game, who's looking to make his second straight All-Star appearance, as Fry is going to barehand this bunt and throw him out. Getting this win would put us one game behind Texas, as Trey Turner could be the final out, and facing a full count, we jammed him inside, forcing the pop-up to center field, charging in. Fernandez is able to make the play, as that was a signature pickle win. In last year's draft, a generational first baseman fell into our lap, and he's improved a ton this season, even though he started out a bit slow in Double-A. But we also took some other top prospects in that class, like Robbie Staub, John Cozart, and then of course going all the way to the 5th round, Hugo Fodor at third base. That was honestly one of the best drafts I've ever had in MLB The Show, and I honestly don't know if this one's gonna be able to compete with it, but we're certainly gonna give it our best shot. This year, there could be another generational prospect in Jason Yoshida, but this time we're picking at 29, so it's a little different. So for the first time of this series, my number one target is gonna be a pitcher. If Garcia's not there, there's a few more options, and we're gonna need them because my top 3 position players are already off the board, and thankfully, simulating to our pick, Garcia is available, so he is my easy selection. But our next one is coming up, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I was planning on taking Max Naylor there, but he went right after, so once again, we're probably gonna go best player available. I know we just drafted a closer last year, but I discovered Gregory Baca late, and he looks very good, so it's either gonna be him or a reach for one of these project position players, and I don't think that's a good idea, so let's just go for the great value pick in Gregory Baca. Now we have a very long wait until our next selection, and there's a few players that went off that I was interested in, like Dexter Palma, but overall, a good amount of our board is still intact, so I think my best move is to take another starting pitcher, and I'm just gonna stay true to my board. A guy I discovered very late, Oren Rouse, who has great contact skills, went right in front of us, so even though he was gonna be my selection here, I have to go with my backup option in a high potential but very raw prospect in Jesse Albus. He is so raw that we just got Gordon Ramsay's attention, and now in the 4th round, I could go Kyler Lindstrom, but I don't know that much about him, and he's also pretty raw, so I think I'm gonna go for a guy that I do know something about and has a pretty solid potential range. You can never have too many high potential infielders, so here's another one, and in round number 6, there's only one player left on my board, and that is a pitcher in Tyrell Musser, so he's the final selection of our season 6 draft. At the break, we have caught up to the Rangers, and looking at all-star voting, Matt Waldron did not make it a 3rd year in a row, but on the other hand, James Getz did repeat as the AL starter, but aside from that, I am not seeing anybody until we get to 3rd base, where Joaquin Cabrera is a first-timer. He is in the all-star game before Mason Valenzuela, who has been at the show for way longer, and maybe it doesn't count too much because we traded for him late, but Yanquiel Fernandez is also here. Now I'm gonna do something that I wasn't sure I was gonna do coming into this recording session, but obviously Emery McCarty is way too good to be left in the minors, so we are adding him to the 40-man roster and moving him straight from Double-A to the MLB. At this point in his career, he's probably just a DH, but hopefully to everybody's relief, he is going to make David Fry a bench player, and that was at least the plan, but after looking at it, I need to cut my roster down to 26 again, so I found a prospective playoff team looking for a 3rd baseman. My mission to improve our bullpen keeps going with David Yu, but that's not a lot, so they're gonna throw in this B potential catcher, and David Fry is a Minnesota Twin. Coming out of the break, we are player locking the debut of Emery McCarty, and even though we're down 5-2, it would be great to see his first hit, as he's worked this count, and that is a pitch to hit that he unfortunately pops up. He is coming all the way up from Double-A, so it might take him a while to adjust to the speed of the game, as he was unable to reach base, and this was not a good game for us. We really need revenge if we want to stay in front of the Rangers, and backup catcher Wally Booker lifts us into left field, but unfortunately, we're gonna leave the bases loaded, so that was obviously not the result we were hoping for, as we went 1-2-3 in the 7th, and apparently after the playoff loss, we're the only team that LA cares about beating because they have not won many other games. Mason Valenzuela just doubled, and here is the Angels' worst nightmare, Randy Trout, to score the go-ahead run, which brings up Emery McCarty, who finally gets his first hit on camera. That is hopefully the most of many for McCarty, who is a generational talent, as Brian De La Cruz shows off his warm warning track power. But of course, that was only the first out of the inning, but Fernandez needs to do better than that. So it is all up to Wally Booker to not strand these runners, but he does exactly that. Now Tom Cosgrove is gonna retire the side, but once again, in the bottom of the 8th, we are not going to add any insurance runs, which definitely puts a lot more pressure on James Getz, who forces soft contact. It is so funny that Nick Madrigal joined the team we beat in the playoffs, but now the joke's on him because he's the last out of this game and Getz got him with the low curveball. The Angels have been so annoying this season, so it feels great to get a good win. And approaching August, I can finally look into contract extensions for some of our best players, but as you can see, this one's not going to happen. But what about Brian De La Cruz, who has been such a key free agent signing, and that is also going to be too much. Obviously, this rebuild would look so different if we didn't have any financial restrictions, but at least for me, I've had a ton of fun creating storylines out of it, and it's really made our climb to the top very rewarding. We are neck and neck with Texas, as we both have 69 wins, but if that wasn't cool enough, we get to see our draft class for the very first time. This has been my favorite part of every single season so far, so let's open it up and see what we got, as there is a lot of blue. Obviously, it is not as good as last year's class, but nothing is ever going to come close to that ever again. But given the rest of the options we have, I think we made a very good choice with Jose Garcia, and our second pick, Gregory Baca, also looks like he could help us out in the bullpen pretty early on. We doubled up on pitcher, although Spencer is a little further out, and then there's Jesse Albis, who is exactly what we thought he was, a raw project player. Unfortunately, I would have preferred the player that got selected right in front of him, and by the way, Jason Yoshida, who went number 2, is generational. Our first game of August is against the Dodgers, as we're down 2-0, but not for long because of a solo shot from Castro. This guy has been an incredible signing for us, because after a couple years struggling as a platoon bat, he put it all together and became a lefty's worst nightmare. Since we're tied with the Rangers, every win matters for the rest of the season, and because it's a close race, it feels like we're having a way worse season than we are, but in reality, we'd be winning any other division that we were in, as Fernandez gives us a ride into right field, and it is over the fence to tie the game. I am really liking this trade acquisition so far, as we needed a player like him, as suddenly we have a walk-off opportunity, and after McCarty looked at strike 3, Paul Arrington is going to hit it straight to Mookie Betts. It appears we are bound for extra innings, especially as Cabrera pops up behind the catcher, but the Dodgers would score to start the 10th, so we need something, and this is grounded out, but the error saves us. We have 2 runners in scoring position, and Mason Valenzuela, on the first pitch he saw, hit it back up the middle, which will score not one, but both runs for a huge walk-off win to start the month. That error literally made that happen, and honestly, it was about time something good went our way, because lately, it's definitely been a struggle. It is about time we got on a roll with 7 straight wins to start the month, and I want to see how far this win streak can go, as we're trailing by 1 run to the Blue Jays, where Dominic Fletcher lines this into right field, going all the way back and over the right fielder's head to load the bases. I have no idea how that didn't score a run, but have no fear, Fernandez is here, going to right field, and get out the rye bread and the mustard, Grandma. It is grand salami time. He got everything on that one, and Fernandez so far has come up in so many big moments, and he helped us get a huge win against the Blue Jays. The win streak continued for 12 games until we lost to the Mets, but now entering September, this is the series that really matters. This is the first time we've taken on Texas in a very long time, and obviously there is a ton at stake in our division, and we were down 1 run at least until they hit a 3-run bomb. After that, they did not take their foot off the gas, so now our lead in the division is only 2 games. Once again, in game 2, we have a very close game, so I'm really hoping history doesn't repeat itself, because the Rangers did what we usually do, surging in late game situations, and there's a pickoff. We did not even have a chance to score that runner because of the pickoff, but now Fernandez doubles in the 9th, which sets up a big opportunity for Emery McCarty. He definitely found a bit of a stride during that win streak, so now we need him to show us what he can do, launching this one into left field. There is no way to the foul pole. It's not gonna stay fair. I thought he had that one, but he was a bit early, so there is one away from Paul Arrington, who lifts this into center field, and I can already tell it is not far enough. I would have gone crazy if Emery McCarty gave us the lead on a deep home run, but instead we have lost the series to Texas, and on the bright side, at least it is not a sweep. It is so funny that 2 AL West teams have the best records in all of baseball, and it's not even close, but to give us a better chance to win this race, I cannot wait any longer. We are bringing up Juan Espinosa. The first round pick from a couple years ago has really improved his game, and I think Chang has been great, but Espinosa just has way better offensive potential. Sure enough, in this game against the Astros, Juan Espinosa hit 3 doubles, and suddenly we are looking on pace to match our win record from last year. But of course, the New York Yankees are in our way. We have a 1-run lead facing Aaron Judge, and that curveball was not supposed to be left over the plate, so this team really continues to cause me problems, but thankfully they gave me a great pitch right back. I am going to enjoy Brian De La Cruz while I have him, but I'm so glad that we brought in Fernandez to fill his spot when he's gone, because after this year, he has 3 years before free agency, and I'm honestly a bit curious how that playoff series could have gone if we had all the talent we have now, as this will drop in to score Fernandez. This game is basically therapy right before the playoffs, and here's the man that has put many Portland Pickles in a psych ward, Vlad Jr. James Getz is taking all of his anger out on this team right now, as there's a chopper to third base, and the flip over to second secures us a big win. It's obviously not big in the sense that we dominated, but we did get to 103 wins, which is one away from our record last season. One more win against the Yankees could tie it, and there it is, as we finished out the year 107-55. On paper, I definitely think our offense needed a star like Fernandez, who hit 36 home runs and 120 RBIs, while to my surprise, catcher Paul Arrington enjoyed a breakout year, while guys like Brian De La Cruz, Mason Valenzuela, Randy Trout, and Dominic Fletcher all performed as per usual. Looking at awards, Fernandez was in third place for MVP, while Ernest Crespo, the rookie who got called up later in the season, was in second for Cy Young, and you already know that meant he won Rookie of the Year. What a dominant season for the rookie pitcher who got up to 85 overall, and with these stats, it is no wonder. But speaking of pitchers, James Getz somehow just got even better with 58 saves instead of 53, and he also had an ERA under 2 that is just ridiculous. Crespo, along with the September call-up of Alex Nathan, really saved this pitching rotation because it was not that great this season, which in hindsight is a very funny thing to say because we were in second for team ERA, but that's also weighted by guys like Mason Engelhart, Tom Cosgrove, and of course the one and only James Getz. We built a very complete team that was first in batting average, second in runs, and even though home runs used to be our worst stat, it is now 6th with the addition of Fernandez. We also had the 4th fewest strikeouts in the league, and really for me, if there's one thing to take away from this series so far, it is that overall ratings really do not matter as much as you think. Looking forward to the playoffs though, I just found out we cannot put Juan Espinosa on the playoff roster because I called him up too late, and honestly I had no idea that rule existed until now, but we could really use him because the 19-year-old hit 403. Of course we're starting the playoffs with the hardest possible matchup, and I definitely had a feeling we'd play them at some point, but I didn't realize it was going to be in the ALDS. We are tied up in game 1, at least until Jonah Heim drives a bases clearing double into the right center gap, so very similar to last year, I already have a pit in my stomach. We did not just win 107 games to get bounced in the very first round, so it's time for us to lock in and rally back. Dominic Fletcher, that's not a good start. We're getting the right pitches, but we're not capitalizing, so thank you Valenzuela, as he's aboard for the big slugger Fernandez. He's in the playoffs after starting the season on a dumpster fire in Colorado that hit him in the toes. He's racing for first, but is not able to beat it. That was a huge missed opportunity, and now their offense is going crazy, so we still have never won the first game of a playoff series. I am really hoping that game 2 can be different, as we're down 1 in the 8th inning, but Emery McCarty is gonna launch this into the left center gap for a game-tying double. I'm really glad the rookie's here, but I feel bad for Juan Espinosa because he's probably watching this game from his couch at home, and a shortstop with power would have been a really nice contributor. And everybody, welcome back Playoff Randy. This man single-handedly sent us to the ALCS last year, and fun fact, this is his second ALDS game 2 in a row with a huge home run, as the Pickles came from behind to even the series. This game 3 is so important as we're down 1-0, and here is a double play, so suddenly we're behind by 3 runs and desperately need a spark, but there's 2 outs for Dominic Fletcher, who is at least able to gap a double into left center. If Mason Valenzuela can get aboard, there would be 2 on for Fernandez, but unfortunately this is a deep fly out, and that's unfortunate because not only did Texas score 2 more runs, but Fernandez ended up going yard. It is so unfortunate that's just a solo shot because that barely chips into the Rangers' massive lead, as here is another double, and I guess we're not out of it just yet because Randy Trout swung on the first pitch he saw, and that is going to score another. Just like the Angels game last season, we are battling, and just a side note, I have no idea how that last pitch did not hit Paul Arrington, but maybe it works out for the best as he gets underneath this one, sending it deep where it's caught. I am begging for our bullpen to survive just 1 inning without giving up a single run, and that's just not going to happen apparently. Another 2-out bomb, and obviously if this game was close, I would definitely play the pitching, but it looks like simming has the same effect because despite all the changes we've made to our bullpen, this Texas offense is simply too much for us. Some days your pitching just gives up 7 runs, and on offense, no matter how hard you hit the ball, it comes up short every time. So we're down to our last at bat as Randy Trout gets underneath this one, and we are officially facing elimination. All I'm going to be able to think about if we lose this next game is how we made a huge move for Dominic Fletcher and Brian De La Cruz just to come up short of our goal, especially because we had the best record in the majors 2 seasons in a row. Crespo had been dominant all game long, but suddenly with the game on the line, he is choking this lead. And just a reminder, my pitching basically requires no user input at all. I just aim it where it tells me to and click the pitch they want, and that just makes players' ratings matter more than my own skill. We just led 1-0, but now we have 3 innings to score 3 runs, so we have to be patient and take our pitches, and then we can let our big sluggers like Randy Trout send them home, except he is way underneath this pitch. The Rangers are currently beating us at what we do best, and that's scoring runs in late game situations. And down 4 runs, we could very well be playing our last innings of the season, which also mean Dominic Fletcher's last time in a Pickles uniform, because our owner is never going to extend him, because obviously a good owner invests in a stadium for their fans to watch a team that they don't spend any money on. However, we are not quitting just yet, because that was our second run of the inning, and now Fernandez is up, but you've got to be kidding me. That pitch came straight down the pipe, and he obliterated it. We have tied this game back up from down 4 runs, so grab your popcorn, because this one is far from over, as we have a man on first for Randy Trout, who sprays this into left for a single. This team plays with so much heart, but unfortunately Paul Arrington is just late on that pitch, and it's a fly out to right that strands runners. Now we really need our bullpen to lock in, and so far Tom Cosgrove is dealing, as there are 2 strikes to Garrett and make it 2 outs. However, we have to be very careful with Corey Seager at the plate, as we left a fastball on the edge, but he's able to reach for it and somehow drive this deep into left field for a home run. I cannot believe that just happened, as Cosgrove put it right on his barrel. So now, after tying the game just half an inning ago with 4 runs, we are playing from behind in the 9th, all because Corey Seager hit the most fake looking home run ever. I cannot believe that we are now 1 out away from elimination, and I am leaving it all up to Vaughn Grissom. He is one of our most consistent hitters of lefties, so I'm pinch hitting him, but we have to be careful because Trevor Rogers throws a very weird changeup, but we're not even gonna need it, making contact to center field where it's run down, and for the second year in a row, the team with the best record in Major League Baseball has been eliminated. I am disgusted that we had to go through another season just to see pretty much the same result as the Yankees series last year, but it's especially unfortunate because I really thought we built something special that could go all the way this season, as we made the biggest blockbuster trade of the entire series, grabbing a player who placed 3rd for MVP voting, while our rookie pitcher Ernest Crespo was a Cy Young finalist. The Rangers did win the World Series, so we lost to the best, but I'm not even ready to find positives because we're losing 3 of our best offensive players. Because we lost De La Cruz and Fletcher, our outfield situation is not good, but I think I found a reasonable player to trade for on the rebuilding Angels in 29-year-old Andy Pages. This is not going to be cheap, as we're giving away a homegrown pitcher along with a fan favorite in Chang, but to fix this terrible situation, I think it's very worth it. Also, since we have a huge logjam of starting pitchers, I'm trading Tyler Phillips, who may be 32 years old, but I think he still has some upside, so him and a B potential third base prospect will gain us an inconsistent but electric reliever in Blair Harrison. Even though this was not the episode that I thought it could be, we saw some very promising developments from this team, and next time we're definitely going through spring training because I think there is a lot to find out about this new squad. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of another Portland Pickles video, and if you did enjoy it, please drop a like and subscribe, and click right here to see some more of my content.